Hello, everybody. My name is Sasha Andreev. I'm so pleased to welcome you to the November Prestige Global Meeting Sources Education Webinar Series, where we explore topics to empower you with knowledge and tools to thrive in your career and even your life. As I said, I'm Sasha. I'll be your host today, as I have been for the past year, to explore today's topic: AI is personal, staying relevant to your customers. Now, if this is your first time here, we are thrilled to have you. And if you have joined us for a previous webinar, welcome back. We're glad you're here. Now, Prestige provides full service meetings and event support for event planners. We make our clients' lives easier with site selection, event logistics, housing and flight management, creative marketing, and personalized on-site support. We collaborate with our global network of hospitality partners, all for your success. Now, this webinar series is part of our mission to keep you informed and empowered. If you've been with us over the course of months, you know that we like to invite guests from our vast network to share their expertise on subjects that affect your professional and, yes, sometimes even your personal lives. And I'm very excited to introduce today's guests. That's right, we got two of them today, Annette Gregg and Tracy Judge. Let's start with Annette. Now, Annette is the CEO of SITE, or the Society for Incentive Travel Excellence, and also of the SITE Foundation, where she leads its 3,700 global members. She has an extensive background in the meeting and hospitality industry, serving in executive level positions for corporations, associations, and nonprofits. She's also won numerous industry awards for her dedication in promoting education and women in the business events industry. Annette, I'm so glad to have you here. Welcome to our webinar.
Well, thank you, Sasha, and hi, Prestige community. Thank you so much for having me today. SITE is a huge fan of Prestige. We have many members within your family there, and we just appreciate all your support over the years. And I'm thrilled about this conversation today.
Awesome. Well, I know that when we originally booked you, you were going to speak on a totally different subject by yourself, representing your organization's SITE. First off, can you tell us a little bit who SITE is and what you do?
Sure. So SITE is a global association, professional association in the business event space, but it's the only association dedicated to incentive travel. So we've been around for about 53 years. We're in 90 different countries. And many of you know our chapters really well. In fact, Minneapolis, where Prestige is headquartered, we have a really strong and wonderful chapter there that many of you are probably familiar with. And so we serve the global incentive travel space.
And what made you pivot to the subject that we're talking about today and getting your cohort Tracy involved?
Yeah, so I was going to do data, and I love data, and SITE always has research to share, but Tracy and Soundings are great friends and partners to SITE. Soundings does professional coaching for our members. They help us with training and workforce optimization. And I love this piece of research that they've done recently. And there's a lot of AI webinars out there, but it's mostly, from what I can see, about kind of the technical and use cases for AI. But today we're going to totally talk about a different take. And it's really just about adoption and change management. How do you get your teams, your coworkers, your clients to start using it, and what are the barriers there? So that's why I'm excited about a slightly different take on AI today.
Well, I'm very excited about it too, because AI now comes up in every industry, every bit of our personal life. So I think this is going to be useful for a lot of us. Why don't we meet Tracy? So here's a little bit about Tracy. Tracy is the founder and CEO of Soundings, which creates workforce solutions for the business events industry. Tracy Judge is an entrepreneur and thought leader, transforming how businesses engage with talent in the events industry. She has over 15 years of leadership experience and is a certified meeting professional, a certified incentive specialist with advanced degrees in hospitality and tourism, and a history of advocacy and service on global industry boards and committees. Tracy is also on the CSU AI Workforce Acceleration Board, which accelerates AI education in the state of California. Tracy Judge, welcome to our webinar.
Thank you, Sasha, and thank you, Annette, for having me. I'm super excited to be here with both of you and the Prestige community today to talk about the personal side of AI.
I think that's the side of AI I think a lot of people want to hear about. I'm curious, can you just tell us a little bit about Soundings, your affiliation with Site, and how AI plays into the mix?
Sure. So at Soundings, we are a talent platform for the business events industry. So we have a global community of over 3,500 members, and the majority of what we do is connecting talent with organizations that need additional support for their events. And with that, we have a responsibility to our community and really the industry at whole to help them stay relevant and continue to upskill and provide support services to them, career services to them. So we have a partnership with Site that's been really fantastic to help support Site members. And then as far as AI goes, you know, we focus on the workforce, and I talk about agile talent solutions. So I couldn't talk about agile talent solutions anymore without talking about AI, because AI is essentially part of our team today, and it's going to really change how we build teams and how we work. So that's how we got into this study. We're in phase 3 of it or now, and I'm excited to share more about it.
Excellent. Well, I think we're all looking forward to it. And before I let you start your presentation, I want to remind all our viewers that, first of all, that chat function is open. So let us know where you're from, say hi, engage. We love hearing from you. It's a great place to provide feedback. But if you do have a question during the presentation, it's great to log it into the Q&A function. That way we can address them all at the end of the presentation. But we'll be watching the chat as well. Now, if you are curious about sharing this presentation later on with a colleague who wasn't able to make it, we actually do record all of our webinars and make them available for viewing on the Prestige Global Meeting Sources YouTube channel, so you can always reference it or share it later. With that being said, we look forward to hearing what you have to say, Tracy and Annette, and I'll catch you at the end of your presentation.
All right. Well, Tracy, I think I was going to kick you off a little bit here. And thanks for the shout outs in the chat, you guys. It's so good to hear from some of you. So keep those coming. I love those. And like Sasha said, I'm going to intersperse some questions throughout Tracy's presentation today, but we will have some time in the end for your questions as well. But Tracy, when you think about Soundings and, really where your special sauce is in that kind of workplace optimization and how you balance out kind of all these 3 circles here. So tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, sure. So a lot of people ask, and when I'm speaking on AI, I want everyone to understand why it's of interest to me. And I mentioned this earlier, but AI is really disrupting the workplace globally in all industries. And because, we work in that space, we need to make sure that we have relevant talent for our customers. We have to predict what are our customers going to need next from a talent standpoint. And then we have to make sure we're helping to get the workforce upskilled to be able to support the new way we're working in the future. So this was an initiative we took on, and we thought we're going to do this study for one time and see where are we from as a workforce in the business events industry, and where do we need to go? How are we going to get there? And this was going to be the start to give us that information on not only how to upskill our talent community, but how to upskill the industry. And it's been really fascinating what we've learned along the way. So we've continued to do it. We've continued to grow it, bring more people into the mix on this. So we'll share more of that. But ultimately, AI is drastically changing the workforce. And I'm going to put this quote on the screen and give everyone a second to read it. So this is a quote from the CHRO of IBM, and essentially is what she is saying is that in the last 100 years, we've never had to think about how we work like we are today, and work has never been disrupted the way it is today. So in any of our lifetimes, we haven't gone through anything like this. And it's something we all need to be thinking about, especially as an industry, to make sure we're growing and changing and we're staying relevant as well. So when we got into this study, the things that we really wanted to look into, right, are how are the professionals engaging with AI? What support and education is missing? And what are the biggest gaps that we're experiencing in as a workforce? And one of the scariest things that we found after we did the study, we had a partner that benchmarked this data for us against other industries. And our our maturity score for AI adoption was a 2.6 out of 5. And as you can see, it's much lower than other industries like manufacturing, banking and finance, technology. And this is not good for our industry because these different industries are our employers. They're also our customers. So when we're delivering services in the business events industry, they're going to expect us to be leveraging AI at the same pace and in similar ways they are. And if we're working slower or falling behind, it's going to devalue what we bring as employees, and it's going to devalue what we bring as agencies as well. So that was one of the big drivers in why we wanted to continue this study. So coming out of the first study, what we realized is that everyone felt different about AI. So across the board, people were utilizing it differently. They have different feelings to it. There was different emotions, fear, excitement. So coming out of the first study, what we did was create these 5 personas. And this was so you were able to understand where you are, and we can help people along their AI journey. So for those of you that have taken the study, thank you for taking it. If you gave your information, it sent you what your persona is. If you haven't taken it, take it after this, and then you can get that information. So that's what we came with from the first part of the study. We released, in October, we released our data from the second piece of the study, and it was very promising, especially from the first one. So we saw industry-wide usage grow. It grew about 5%, which isn't huge, but it does show traction. But the thing that was really exciting here that we saw is that the likelihood of adopting AI tools and technologies or increasing adoption grew from 30% to 75%. So what that means is people are using it and people are starting to see the value in what AI can bring. And this is my favorite part of our data, is that when we looked at how it was increasing productivity levels, the number one thing people reported is that it enhanced team efficiencies. So the big part of adoption is that we're doing it together and we're learning and growing together. So this shows that teams are doing that and they are talking about it and they're becoming more efficient together, which will continue to boost, adoption as well. So streamlined workflows, another one. Workflows are where we see some of the biggest impact of AI, as well as improved decision making as well. So helping to analyze that data we're always collecting but don't know what to do with. And so when we look at how the AI was being used compared to how responders said it would be used in the future, this is also good to see. Marketing and content was the biggest use case of AI in the first side of the study we did, which is a great tool for our industry, because if you look at our industry and you look at the strengths of especially meeting planners and event planners, execution strengths are the highest, and then relationship strengths. Where they're lower are in strategic strengths and influence strengths. So it's great for people that are more on the executing side to have access to AI for marketing and content and strategy things. But that's not really where we're going to see the biggest impact in operations. It's in the workflow pieces of it. So really understanding how you can use it in your day-to-day work. So we saw, marketing, you can see on here, the current usage is the highest. It's the orange. And then, but for the future, you see people wanting to use it for other things, for event operations, scheduling, chatbots, attendee engagement, budget and cost optimization. So that's good, because that's where we're going to start seeing the biggest impact. And it means that people are starting to think about, how can I apply this in my day-to-day job and the work I have to do? And this is also interesting data. One of the things, of course, people are really scared about is AI taking jobs. We are going to see some shifts in that for sure. But in our industry, when we interviewed the leaders, what we saw is that leaders are ready to invest in their teams, and they know they need to upskill and reskill for the future of work and for the AI adoption. So very few people that we surveyed said that they're thinking about reducing headcount. The number one thing they're thinking about is investing back into the people they have. And so we're in this interesting spot right now as far as careers go and as jobs go. So AI is expected to displace 90 million jobs. This is data from the World Economic Forum that was released in 2025 in their jobs report. So we are going to see some jobs displaced, but what is great here is that it's said to be generating 170 million new jobs. So we should actually be increasing jobs over time. The thing is, we're in this space where we don't know what those jobs look like yet. And AI is changing so fast, and what we can do with it evolves. So during this time, we're all still figuring out, okay, what do those jobs of the future look like? And that's why it's so important for us to start engaging in AI so we understand how it is going to impact us and what jobs may exist later that don't exist now. So skills really are the new currency, and there's a big focus on skills over, say, education or past job titles. And it's really looking at what skills is someone bringing to this job. So, but now the World Economic Forum said that 39% of the job skills we have today are going to be disrupted by 2030. So that's less than 5 years from now. So that means about 40% of the skills you bring into the job you do today are going to be irrelevant and not have value in less than 5 years from now. So we really need to start thinking about what skills do we need. If you're only bringing 60% of what you bring today to your work, how much are our employers going to want to pay us, right, for those skills? So now's the time to start thinking about where do you want to go in your career, and also what skills do you need to get there. We see this in the industry a lot, and through coaching, we are constantly seeing this, right? We're coaching planners, and same story, right? They're so busy all of the time. And we keep saying like, okay, you need to get a seat at the table. And they're like, we can't get out from under the table, right? And so when we add on Learn AI and you need to upskill, that is a lot on people. And we hear like, I don't have the time for that, right? But the thing is, now is the time to really start thinking about how you're going to upskill and grow, and you need to use the tools that are available to you.
Well, Tracy, let me stop you there for a second. This is such a funny slide, and I know this is the reason most of us say, like, I just can't get to it. But are there, the biggest stat? I'm glad that our industry is advancing in its adoption percentage, but we're still probably considerably pacing behind other industries. So when you think about, is this the only reason that we lag behind other industries for adoption? Is that we're just too busy? It's kind of like working on a train that never stops? Or do you think there's other reasons that our industry lags behind in AI adoption?
Yeah, I think one of the things with AI adoption is that the skills and strengths to really understand and adapt to AI and get excited about it sit a lot on the strategic strength side. So when we look at, and we do a lot with strength finders, so it's Clifton Strengths, and when we sponsor things at industry events, we offer this assessment complimentary to attendees. So we have a lot of data on the industry, and I started seeing correlations between different roles and strengths. So what we see is things like high in executing strengths, achiever, responsibility, those things that really make events happen, right? You can't, if it's all strategy people and no executors, nothing happens. So the thing is that in our industry, it's kind of unnatural to lean into those strengths if you have them, or develop those skills, because you're using different ones in your day-to-day job.
Mm-hmm. And it does take white space, right? It does take some open time in your agenda where you can sit. And for me, what really helped us pivot as site is we didn't think about what tool do we need to use or what platform should we subscribe to. It was more of what are we trying to solve? What is a big pain point for us that we're trying to solve, and how can AI help us get there? But more on that later. Okay, I'll let you keep going. I'm going to interrupt you later.
Yeah, that's a big, I mean, it is a big part of it. And, depending on your size of the organization, it's different about what you're thinking about. And one of the reasons too, we see slower, I think we see slow adoption is because it's kind of a top-down, bottom-up approach. So you have leaders that are looking at this across a whole organization of how does this impact my organization? How are we going to use it? Which is huge. It's a huge change management project. Then you have people saying like, give me direction. What am I allowed to use? Can I use that? Like, people don't want to outstep what they're allowed to do. So it's really finding, how do we start while we're organizationally figuring out how is this going to change our organizations? How do we start preparing talent at all levels of the organization to start learning and understanding AI as well? So we'll go to a little bit more data here. If I can get my mouse to work, there we go. So we went into this a little bit, but when you look at on the left here where it says top skills and strengths priorities, these are the priorities that people think in the future, that these are the strengths and skills that people are going to be looking for in their employees. So as I mentioned before, creativity and innovation, adaptability, flexibility, content creation and strategy, right? Strategic planning. And these are things that aren't first, right? Aren't the first strengths and can sometimes make planners feel very vulnerable. And when we look at the industry's top strengths, it's things like budget management, communication, event planning, customer service, very different than what is going to be needed in the future. So we need to start thinking as individuals and as leaders, how do we get people this experience, right? Leveraging these soft skills and training for these soft skills. And this is interesting data that we found as well. When we first did it, one of the biggest barriers to AI adoption was cost. When we did the second phase 2 survey, it was actually lack of understanding the benefits of AI. That was number one. And interestingly, I sit on the California State Universities and the governor's office started an initiative, and it's for AI workforce adoption throughout California, so we can start readying the workforce, right? Starting at the education level on up to be ready to use AI, with California being the leader of AI in the world right now. And I sit in a room with a lot of people from from OpenAI, from Microsoft, from IBM, and people that are on the education side of things. And it's so interesting because they all have products that they can sell, right? But they say too, the number one thing that we're missing is that general understanding of AI. What is it? How does it work? What is it good at? What is it not good at? What are case studies or case uses for it? So that's one of the things coming out of phase 2 of this study for us is, okay, how do we get general education and conversation around AI? So then if you are being presented all different tools, or you're hearing, going to workshops about tools, that you can understand what they can do for you and how they can apply.
Yeah, Tracy, I think that's where some of the gap is. And actually, before I go on to my next question, you have a little notification screen that keeps popping up. I wonder if you could turn it off again.
Oh, let's see.
See it? It says turn on reactions or something like that. I think it came back on when you wiggled your mouse at the last time. You did turn it off.
There it is.
There you go. Yeah, so when I think about just the practical questions around this, like understanding the benefits of AI, you and I talked about this before. It's okay if you can't get rid of it. I don't want it to mess up your whole slide deck there.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to.
Yeah, there's like a little X on the box, but it's okay. But I guess my question is, if most of these jobs and skill sets haven't even been defined yet, how do we hire for digital literacy? It's like the answer can't just be, let's hire a millennial or, a Gen Zer because they're more comfortable with tech, So like, how are you finding and sussing out if that candidate has the propensity to learn AI when you're kind of adding and adding to your team and hiring?
Yeah, it's again looking at the different strengths and skill sets and aptitude for technology, and it's why a lot of those soft skills become so important again as well, because that shows people are more likely to adapt and get curious with AI. But it's really interesting when you think about this because a big part of us using AI and the biggest impact is going to be in workflows and how do we use it in the workflows and what we do. So in order to do that, we need to know how is the work actually done. So there's this big thing in talent gap, right? And knowledge gap from, legacy industry professionals who have done this for so long, and now we're bringing new talent in that doesn't have that experience. So we're seeing this gap, and as people retire, it's going to get wider and wider. But it's interesting because, the younger generations have just been brought up with technology more. So you usually have a higher aptitude to learn it, right? But they don't understand the business side. So if we can use the legacy understanding of the industry with people that have a high aptitude for technology that are used to using it in everything they do day to day, that's where we're going to see a lot more adoption. And also we can close the gap in experience within the industry.
Right. So maybe the answer, you're not going to find those super users yet. It's probably too early to say, hey, I need 3 to 5 years experience using AI. It's more of looking for someone that's adaptable, curious. Like you said, I love that word. And earlier you used the word, agile. Have you worked in agile environments? Have you shown your agility in the workplace? So good.
Yeah, it's very similar actually. It reminds me a lot of what we did during COVID. So
Right.
during COVID, right away, I had freelancers and they were the first ones to lose work, right? So we're one, give them community plug-in. Two, what do they need? How can we educate them? So we had partnered with some of the event technology companies. They gave us education and we brought communities together that learned together. And
Cool.
AI is the same, right? They learned faster because they had each other to do it.
It's a great idea.
And we spoke about this a little bit earlier, and it's one of the pushback we see a lot of like, how am I going to find time for AI?
Yeah.
So within our organization, I have an incredible team and they're always open to learning and growing. And, and sometimes they don't like the responsibilities they are given, but it's great because they want to get out of having to do them. So they use technology to figure out how to do it and do it faster so they don't have to spend their time on it. But it's interesting. And what we've learned through that, this is actually how people learn. So 10% of what we learn comes from formal education like this, or, furthering your education, conferences, reading. They say 20% of our learning comes from interacting with others, and mentoring, coaching, things like that. But 70% comes from on-the-job education. And with AI, that is one of the things to really, really remember, because there are times if you just take a second and you're doing something and you say, this feels inefficient. If it feels inefficient, is there a faster way to do it? And then go into ChatGPT and say, here's what I'm doing. Is there a faster way to do this? Is there a better way? And it'll give you ways right away. Sometimes it's more complicated than others, but they might give you a tip that'll make you work 5 times faster on the thing you're working on at that time. So it's just taking that extra second and when you're doing things and thinking about it, seeing if there's a faster way and then deciding, do I try it now or do I try it later? But changing your mentality like that and really starting to incorporate that testing and playing and trying in your day-to-day work. So if whoever has taken the assessment, you would have learned about your personas already. So what we are trying to do is really create a framework for the industry where we can get a deeper understanding of AI in general. So we're looking at how we can track AI, what metrics do we need to measure it, how can we see how we're moving along as an industry and improving, and as teams and as individuals. And then a big part of that is how AI engagements and personas are defined. So as we talked about, and I'm sure you see this on your teams as well, everybody's in a different place with AI from a technical standpoint, and everyone has different feelings and emotions about it as well. So this grid, it's a little bit a little bit complicated, but the first thing we want to do is we match engagement metrics with the engagement personas. So so what we're really tracking first is adoption. So what we want to see commitment to using AI. Then are they actually using it? So do their behaviors show that AI is being used? And then productivity is really where we want to be, right? That's the goal. And then we're able to show what impact does AI have on productivity and also on, the products and services that we're delivering, and can we improve them through uses of AI? So I won't go too far into the different personas, but the first one, tech forward strategists. These are the people that probably hopped onto AI right away. They're using everything. If you talk to them, they'll probably inundate you with information really fast, confuse you, make you feel really uncomfortable, and you're less likely to use things, right? If you're new to it. So, but we want the text forward strategists to help teach us, but also to be able to work with the other text forward strategists so they're learning and accelerating together. A pragmatic problem solver, this is, really someone that's like I said, I need to do this. I don't have that much time. Let me go on ChatGPT and see if there's something that can help me. Does it? Yes, no. Okay, move on and do what you need to do. The resourceful realist, this one is about like creativity with restraints. We see this a lot with freelance talent because they want to be able to do it. They want to use AI, they want to get faster, but some of the AI tools are super expensive and they run their own businesses, right? So it's able to look at, okay, do I actually need this? Does that make sense for me, and my business, or should I wait on that one? So finding the tools that make sense for them at the time. So in that case, you'll see like they're high in adoption. Their usage is medium because they might not have access to everything they need, right? And the productivity is typically low because they're not using it in workflows or regularly. They're not using it spread out across teams. The curious explorers are people that really want to learn, and a lot of times they just don't know where to start or where to go. And you can be a little bit like fearful of it, or, you feel a little bit insecure about your ability to use it. And then, so they're low on adoption, usage, and productivity. And so are relationship focused leaders, which we see a lot in this industry because we're such a relationship based industry. So for this cohort, it's really understanding how can we use AI to better understand our customers, to increase our relationships, and to do things that don't need to be necessarily human, so we can spend more time with our customers. So what we started doing with this is having webinars and breakouts where we connect each type of persona with each other, and they can talk about these things and where they are on their journey. But a big piece of this is the emotional drivers of it. So how we feel, and everyone says don't talk about emotions in business. It's so important right now. If we don't talk about emotions, we're never going to drive organizational change, because fear and overwhelm are two of the things that slow down change. So when you get your persona, it'll also tell you what your emotional driver is with it too. So people are optimistic, they're going to use it more, they're going to want to try. Risk, I don't know, they didn't tell me I could use that tool at work, so I'm going to hold back on using it because I'm risk averse, which you see a lot in the industry. Obviously, overwhelm, it's a lot. There's a lot of change fast. And then compliant, a lot of companies are forcing people to use it, and then they feel uncomfortable about using it, so they're not too happy about doing it, but they have to. So when you're thinking about people and people on your teams and people you're working with, think about these things and think about what is driving the emotions that they may be, or how are their emotions driving the responses to how they're adopting.
Tracy, would you say that that's the role of the manager, that kind of, so you have to identify where people are coming from and maybe their persona, but then what does a manager do? What's that next step?
Yeah, I think, as a manager, one, it's understanding where we all are. It's understanding what you're trying to accomplish and what you want your team to accomplish. And how do you create safety for everyone and that sense of safety for all that are involved? And also, create those opportunities for growth. So if you have people that are ready to go and want to use AI, but you're being too cautious about how you're rolling it out or rolling it out slow, they're not going to be happy. And honestly, from a retention standpoint with an organization, like that's not good because they're going to want to work with companies that are fast paced, right? You have legacy people that own all your relationships or a lot of the relationships in your industry. You don't want to force it on them and think that those relationships are at risk. So that's why working with the different personas as a team is super helpful because everybody can play a different role in what's going on. It's just like a strengths assessment or any of the personality assessments that we do. Those assessments make people understand each other better and increase teamwork, increase communication. Looking at AI personas with your team is very similar to that concept. All right. So one of the things as far as implementing this into your workforce, we've done a lot, and I know your team experiments a lot with AI as well. Do you want to tell a little bit about what you've been working on?
Yeah, and Site's HQ staff is small. We're only about 15 people, and I'm really proud of the team that they've come up with ways that just make really practical, saves time, and makes it so we're not super users by any means, but a couple of things that we started doing early on. When you hold events, you get so much verbatim evaluation stuff back, and you can read 300 comments, or you can just dump all that into ChatGPT and it can come up with trends in the verbatim. So that's been super helpful. And then we came up with the biggest time solver for us recently has been our hosted buyer. We have a hosted buyer program for all of our events, and we have a criteria where people apply, and then we try to, really it's been largely manual where we have an anonymous committee and they read all these, could be 300 applications, and there's going to be a lot of bias in that. By the time you get to the 198th application, how much attention is that person really getting? So AI has helped us force rank these applications based on the criteria that we overlay on each event. So that has saved us a ton of time, and we still give the top, say, third to the committee to evaluate, but it really cuts down the amount that they have to look at on a case by case. So that's been a huge time saver for us. And that we just worked with a company. The company created that tool for us custom, but we had to start with the question is, what is a problem we're trying to solve? And so that has been a big time saver for us.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. We actually have a very similar, very large project across our organization with many steps. But when I first started Soundings, people would say, "Why aren't you a tech company? It'll be so much more valuable." I said, "Well, I don't know." I'm like, "I don't know if you can, this is a people business. There's things you just can't match with technology. So I don't know. Let me see how this works and let me figure it out first." And over time, we started looking at, okay, here are success stories, here are matches. What are we actually matching on as humans? Because we do it so intuitively eventually over time. So we broke that out with our team and looked at, okay, here are the 5 things that we're going to look at. Under there's a lot of data points that come into play as well. So that's one way that we can help narrow down what talent is good for roles. So couple years ago, we started building out algorithms to be able to see this, and we realized we need more data. And also with how fast AI was moving, I said, let's stop. Let's stop. Let's focus on what we're doing and continue testing our theories on this. And I'm really happy we did, because AI is able to do so much more for us now. So we use it in all different areas of our organization. But the thing we tried to do is really use it for, in the same way you do for the hosted buyers, right? We're trying to match talent with roles. And if we can go through, we have 3,500 people in our community, right? If we can get to a point where we can narrow that down and have a short list without missing people that are good, which is why we do look at skills and strengths, and we have the 5 things we look at. We don't want to miss people, but if we can narrow that down, then that gives our team more time to spend with our talent and more time to spend with our customers and do the human piece of it. So
Great example.
we've used this framework. To do it. So we documented it so we could share with others. And I'm using it for a huge organizational change project. There's, probably 10 of these blueprints going on in different ways that all need to connect together eventually. But this can start with something very, very small. So it could start with one part of your project or one initiative in your department. But we talked about this, and as you did, right? The first thing you need to do is understand what work is actually being done. So audit the work that's being done. Who are the people that are doing it? And really start to understand that piece of it. And again, this is why it can't be a top-down only approach within organizations, because leadership doesn't know the intricacies of the work getting done. If you want AI to be successful and support you, then you need to understand the intricacies. So you need people at all levels engaged. So you want to audit that current work, and then you want to think about, okay, of this work, where can AI help us? Do that research, figure out where that can help. Then you want to look at, okay, what are the skills and strengths we need to get this done based on the work that needs to be done and what AI can do for us? So documenting those things out. Then you're going to look at that and say, okay, if I had to build a team around this, or if I'm rebuilding my department, what does that look like? And you really puzzle it together of what roles need to be there. They might be different roles than before. You might build your team a little bit differently, but think about, what does that team look like? And then that's when you align the team members. So that's when you look within your organizations and say, who has these skills? Who has these strengths? And a lot of times you're going to pull cross-functional teams from different departments. And then you just give it a go. You try, you pilot it, and as you go, you optimize it as you need to. But, there's you fail a lot in it, but you need to continue to learn from that and learn from your failures. And I think that's one of the things that also sets our industry back a lot. We're so afraid of failure. And we just can't be anymore. We need to be able to take those risks and know, we tried and we learned, and then now how are we going to continue to improve? And that's it.
All right, everybody. Well, Tracy, thank you so much. I think Sasha's going to tee us up, but I just personally want to thank you. I always learn so much when I hear you present.
No, thank you. And I always love presenting with you. And Annette is such a huge champion of education in our industry, and not just at site, through the history of her career, everything she does in, the college school systems as well. And she's one of those people, if she asks you to do something, you always say yes, because of the amount she's given back to the industry. So it's always an honor to do this with you, Annette.
Well, thank you, both of you. This was very interesting, and it's kind of a relief, I think, hopefully for everyone watching, that this is an overwhelming subject for everyone, no matter who you are. And we're continuously learning how to incorporate AI because it keeps changing. As we said to everyone watching, if you have a question, you can use that Q&A function or type your question into your chat. You kind of answered it, but I was curious, when you were talking about different types of users, somebody was curious about why the eager learner was so low on the list, because that eager learner, you'd think, would actually be the one who wants to utilize it the most.
I'm sorry, what do you mean low on the list? As far as low adoption?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, it's Curious Explorer. Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah.
And why they're low? It's because they're curious about what it can do, and but they don't know what steps to take, right? So you have those emotional drivers that you look at, where it's they're hesitant to use that in the work, use AI in the work that they're doing, because they haven't been told that they can, or they just like they're super curious about it, but they don't know where to start. And they're not used to living in the gray. So that's where we see that curious explorer. They want to do it, but that feeling of not knowing what to do or how to do it makes them feel really, really, insecure.
Yeah.
Well, a question that I have, and maybe this is a silly one, is a lot of times we utilize AI not to just complete tasks, but also because so much communication that we put out in this industry to the various departments, to attendees, to clients, is we use AI to generate that information, whether it's imagery or even text itself. Do you have any thoughts on sort of making it still sound human? Or making it still seem personal and not generated? Because a lot of times, at least for myself, as somebody who doesn't necessarily work in the corporate world, I utilize AI to find corporate speak or neutrality in my language. But we're actually doing the opposite thing where we're trying to connect with clients and make it feel really personal and human. So do you have any thoughts on how to utilize AI in a way that feels effective and still personal?
Yeah, I think so. I'm a founder and an entrepreneur, and I also have ADHD. So my mind goes nonstop all of the time, and I have a lot of ideas constantly. So for me, I use AI a lot as a thought partner and talk through situations, because sometimes I can't get it down to how people will understand it, right? But the thing, and I think about it a lot. I'm like, oh no, is my voice starting to become the AI, or is the AI becoming my voice? And I have to, and I am really cognizant of that. But the thing is, AI learns you. So what you're prompting it with, you're putting your ideas in there, and it's helping you capture them, and it's helping them make sense to you, which with how busy we all are and everything going on with everyone, like that can be hard at times. So if used right, it really can help you communicate what you're trying to say or who you are, or what you believe and think a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you have to make sure that like the voice in it sounds like you. But it's been really interesting. I get a lot of, emails from people, people filling out profiles, and I look at it and I'm like, guys, please just take out the long dash and unbold the things, right? Because it's like you're giving yourself away right off the bat. So you're going to question the sincerity of it and what it's saying. And you can tell stuff if you're not, you can tell stuff that's like basic script off of somebody that was really putting their own thoughts into it for it to generate and kick back information.
Well, with your experience from AI, is there a way or other things that are markers for when you see that something was generated by AI versus something that still feels personal, where they took the time to at least curate that information from a human side?
Yeah, I mean, I see it a lot. Usually, if it's done really well, you never really notice, you might not notice. I usually notice it all the time, but if somebody is using it and using it well, and I can tell they used it and they framed a point with it and it still sounded like them, like great, like that's who you want. They're the type of people you want working for you in your organization, working with customers, using it in the way to be strategic. And I saw something, Tracy in the chat actually said her team uses it to help write tough emails. And that is a great use for it, right? Because also, if you can tell it like, here is the person I'm responding to, their style is going to be very different than yours. So it
Mhm.
can actually help you say things in a way that you can be saying the same exact thing you were going to say. The way you're framing it is different. And then that person is going to receive that message a lot better than if you said it the way you would naturally do it. And I think that's too for leaders. It's super important as well. It's a great tool to be able to communicate with your team the way they need to be communicated with to be.
That's a very interesting point, that writing an email not to separate yourself from the hard information you're conveying, but actually curating the email using AI for the style of communication of that team member, so they receive it better, which probably then comes back to, as a leader, understanding how your team communicates and what their different
Yeah.
communication styles are like.
Absolutely.
We did have a question just come in from Jennifer Heil. What AI tools have you found to be the most helpful for this industry in our day-to-day work?
Oh man, there's a lot of them. And this is where somebody asked, how do you get people started, like the curious explorers? And this is why I think, getting in groups of the people that are the same persona with you is so important, because where you start, right, to what you're using later is much different. Uh, ChatGPT, obviously, it's a great place to start. It's really easy. It's really easy to use. It has a lot of different functions that you can use with it. One of my favorite tools right now that I use is Gamma. It's called Gamma, and it helps create presentations. So if you have stuff that's in a Word document, you can put it in. It can, derive what you're trying to say for that and create a presentation. Great tool for meeting planners, like amazing tool for meeting planners, because a lot of times, especially if you're pitching up to in your organization and to executives, being able to get that to help you drill down on the important topics of what they're going to see and be in a presentation form that is edible to them, that they're used to seeing, is super important. So I think those.
Tracy, that's the one I was going to say too, because I've seen it where CVBs and tourism bureaus have actually used it to present, 3 perfect days in Barcelona presentations, and it pulls the images for them. It pulls a sample itinerary. I mean, such a huge time saver.
Yeah, it's amazing. And a lot of times, it does that for me. And then I take that and I take the pieces of it that I want, but it gets me there so much faster than if I was just trying to, mess around in PowerPoint and do it myself.
Right.
Awesome. So ChatGPT, Gamma, and hearing that it just makes you so much more efficient. I guess a question I have: what is the first step that people can take to increase adoption in their teams?
Well, I mean, I'm going to be a little bit biased here, but I really believe in what we're doing from a persona standpoint. So, one, if you take all of that data, helps the industry and helps us get better and create the education we need in the industry for adoption. But understanding the personas of your teams really helps understand what kind of experience do they need, what do you need to expose them to, right? Who can you partner them with on your team? Because everyone's going to have a different, they're at a different place. So you're not going to give all the same tools to the same people because you don't want to overwhelm them. Additionally, it matters what you're doing, right? So understanding what people are doing and getting to understand what are people doing in their roles and having those conversations with people. And then as leaders, recommending the tools that they can use based on that.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's a great way to sort of like cap this off. And before I let you go with the rest of your day, I know that you mentioned that you're offering a $50 membership discount to Cite for all participants today. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, community never goes out of style. It's something that we need more and more in this age of AI and automation, is community. So Cite could be your professional community if you are so inclined. So for anybody participating today, we have a $50 off offer that will go out in the post survey email.
Well, obviously, building community is important. That's what Prestige helps do with all their clients and contacts. So if you're interested in learning more from Annette or Tracy and getting in touch with them, and maybe using them as resources to help with that adoption of some of these maybe intimidating ideas, please contact your Prestige account manager. Prestige is going to be your resource for getting in touch. Annette, Tracy, this was so fascinating. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Thank you, Sasha. Great chatting with everybody.
Thank you, Sasha.
Thank you. Well, I want to remind everyone that we have just one more webinar coming up in December. We are setting the date for that shortly. So look for your emails. You can always go to this QR code to find information on our full schedule. But we'll be chatting about what happened in 2025 in the events industry, what to look forward to in 2026. And we're going to be doing a roundtable discussion with several of our Prestige team members here. So it's going to be a very interesting and very useful way to cap off the year. So until then, look for your emails. It's been such a pleasure being your host today. Thank you for being with us over the course of the year. And we look forward to many more presentations to come. So if you do actually have an idea for a webinar that you'd like to see covered, or perhaps you are that person who has the expertise and you want to share with us, again, contact your Prestige account manager and get in touch with us, because we would love to start building our calendar for the next year. Until then, thank you so much. My name is Sasha Andreev, and we will see you all in December. Have a great day, everyone.